and this I can talk.
Call this meeting to order. Roll call. This is the Sewer Authority Midcoastside meeting. It is 7:02 p.m. and it is Monday, June 8th, 2026. So, roll call, please.
Director Rhoda,
Here.
Director Dye,
Present.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Nagangas,
Here.
Director Mark,
Here.
Legislator Carter.
Present. And I'm going to ask the board to join with me in an oral communication, public comment to Jeremy, who would like to lead. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeremy.
Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
I'm all choked up.
Hands up. Sid, yes.
Public comment time?
It's public oral comment. Sid,
Hi,
your volume is too low. Please turn it up.
Or no,
That's awesome.
us, that's us.
Oh, that's our side.
turning it up. Oh, wait, I didn't. That was down.
I said we're doing it here. Don't worry.
Oh,
Okay.
it was your volume.
Big move. A layoff.
Yes, good.
When life calls, you reach out to your people, the ones who know you,
We're getting
to those who can help you with your health.
inbound.
I don't know what that was. Sorry.
Keep an eye on that.
Greg Yegas isn't muted.
Yeah, everybody else.
Yeah, but
I think when I hit my volume, I actually turned on a YouTube video that was, anyway, I got it shut down. Now, are you ready for me to start?
please.
Okay. Basically, I just wanted to alert Sam that on May 27th, both the MCC and the Planning Commission were talking about modifying the way they calculate the 40 units of permits for new development on the Midcoast per the LCP. And of course, the Planning Commission takes place at 10 in the morning and the MCC doesn't take place till 7 at night. So they got kind of their feathers ruffled when they got the after the fact presentation by Bharat Singh saying that they were going to put this in front of the Board of Supervisors. And it's been postponed. And Ray has asked the MCC to hold a public meeting. But I was listening to, or shall I say, re-listening to the meeting video of the Planning Commission. And I think they're confused because they keep talking about how one of the conditions originally in the 40 units was that the Sewer Authority Midcoastside would improve the stormwater catchment or whatever. And I don't.
What?
Yeah, I know. That's what I said too. So I wasn't at that meeting. I only listened to it over the video, but I think that needs to be brought up to them that that's not Sam's project. I think they maybe misunderstood because of the wet weather storage under the Burnham Strip or the fact that we did have overflow during a storm season, but maybe they think stormwater goes into our sewer. I really don't know, but they need to be advised that that is not the case. So I wanted to let you. There's a very large report on the Planning Commission's website explaining how they're going to recalculate, or they're trying to recalculate the 40 units per year, because we haven't never used them up until Cypress Point came along. So now they want to look back to 2013 and use banked unused permits to give out future permits. Otherwise, permits are frozen until 2028 on the Midcoast. Okay.
That would cause us to have huge influx.
Yes.
Of interesting projects.
And my point is, first of all, I know a lot of smaller homeowners come before MWSD asking about building their little houses. But in 71 units, it gets given out to a big corporate entity because it's affordable, and they're allowed to give out more than 40 units a year if it's affordable. But there have also been they haven't done it yet, but they were talking about upzoning the CUSD parcels in El Granada. So by the time 2028 comes along, maybe that'll be upzoned, and that another developer will come along and want to take another, who knows how many extra units out of the LCP allocation. So that basically leaves the small individual lot owners kind of standing by the roadside with their hands out. Anyway, that's all. I won't take up all your time.
Thank you very much. I don't see, I'm looking, Greg, I don't see your hand. I just didn't want to miss it. Okay.
Well, I'll say something. I've already forwarded a report to the MCC about this. I view it as outrageous. And we're questioning the evacuation capacity and all the infrastructure, but stay tuned.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, seeing no more hands, not in the audience, to consent agenda. We have minutes of April 27th and May 11th, approved the disbursements for June 8th, monthly revenue and expense report for period ending April 30th, 2026, and accept the quarterly financial report for the third quarter of the fiscal year 25-26. Does anybody want anything pulled? Nancy?
I don't want to pull one. I just want to make a comment on one and just draw your attention to it. That's okay.
Please.
On the quarterly report, financial report, there are a couple changes in it that have come out of the Finance Committee. One is George worked with the committee on updating the format for the combined CIP report. So it now shows expenditure year by year by year. So it has an extra layer of detail that kind of helps us understand what's being spent on old projects in this year. So thank you very much for that, George. And a second new one that will be part of quarterly reports in the new year related to the budget line we now have for non-CIP capital expenditures. So it's a detailed report on what's going into that new budget line that has $417,000 on for next year.
$417,000.
417,000. Did I say something different?
You said 417.
Oh. And it gives just some detail about what's going into that bucket, and that will come quarterly, but you've got a preview in this month's report.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Keisha.
I also wanted to bring on the point that we have added two extra reports, if you've observed. One is an AP draft report, which talks of earlier our warrant list was to have only checks, but we've been doing ACH, wire transfer or auto pay to certain vendors. So those have also been added as reports to the board. So that will continue going forward.
Fun. Thank
Is
you.
that partly this report?
No, so
And I'm going to abstain from the May
the
11th.
warrant list.
Okay.
I wasn't here.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, as I look at it here, it's confusing. It would be good to have the dates somewhere on these projects.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not related. That's not related to this.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we'll approve the minutes for April 27, the disbursements for June 8th, the monthly revenue for April 30, and the quarterly financials in one motion. And then we will have another motion for the May 11th minutes because Paul was not here.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes for April 27th, the disbursements of June 8th, the monthly revenue and expense report for the period ending April 30th, and the quarterly financial report for the third quarter.
do we have a second, Scott? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Now we will have the motion, if somebody would make it, to approve the May 11th, 2026. So moved. Thank you. Debbie and Scott, all those in favor of approving the May 11th, 2026 meeting, agendas?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Aye. Yeah.
And so we have 5 approvals and 1 abstention. Or however you add it
6 and
with
2,
our,
I think.
or 6 and 2. Interesting modern math. Thank you. Moving on to regular business. The first item is to adopt resolution number 2026, adopting the Sewer Authority Midcoastside contract collection services budgets for 26-27.
I make a motion to approve them. We love the contract collection.
Thank you.
You want to talk about it a little? Sure.
I have a short presentation of
Yeah.
the contract collection services budget. As you're all aware, the election services is a contract with the member agencies. And we've gone ahead by the same process that we do the general budget. We discuss it with the member agency managers, bring it to the finance committee, and then bring it to the SAM board. The SAM board had authorized earlier for us to send it to the member agencies. Each of the member agencies took it up at their board or the council and got it approved and sent it back to us. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the member agencies for doing it so quickly and bringing it back. And of course, the thanks also goes to our finance team, finance committee. And let me give you a short presentation on the collections. But
I think it's just the little, you're trying to minimize the zoom.
yes.
I think it's just that little straight line up there.
There we go. More or less.
That's not going to go soon.
Yeah, I think just that one that's, oh yeah, you're not, oh, I think she might have to do it.
Most is allergic to it.
Yeah. Yeah. There.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So we have a collection crew which consists of 4 staff members. 3 of them go around doing all the flushing of the pipelines, taking care of it. And the 4th person is the mechanics, who take care of all the lift stations and other accessories. So now, the way the budget is operated for the past couple of years is all agencies have a minimum of 50% of their lines cleaned on an annual basis. The total cost includes line cleaning, lift station routine maintenance, hotspot cleaning, emergency response, underground service alert markings, and then any other reported related events. So once all 50% of all systems have been cleaned, SAM staff then coordinates with the member agency managers to identify the most critical work. That's the balance of the time is utilized to do other than what is been agreed upon. The cost percent allocation is Half Moon Bay is 34.5, GCSD is 28.5, and MWST is 37%. MWST actually reduced by 1% this time because the seal curve areas have been taken off from SAM's list. So that way staff time has got slightly reduced. So we discussed it amongst member agency managers and proportion the percentage. So it boils down to the fee distribution of a total of 960,662, where Half Moon Bay is 331,415. MWSC is 335,430. Note that MWSC has got the maximum number of lift stations compared to Half Moon Bay and GCSD. That's got 13 lift stations. So that's why we have more percentage out there. Half Moon Bay has got 3 lift stations, while GCSD has got only 1 lift station. So this is the proposed agency fee. Half Moon Bay is about 331, Granada 273, Montana is about 355. Overall change is about 42% in Half Moon Bay. Granada is about 42, and Montana is about 36%. So this gives you an idea about the percentage allocation. This is already there in the packet, so I don't want to go through it and spend more time on it. This is the same thing which is indicated here in the form of the chart. Just to give you an idea, we wanted to, from the routine presentation of the budget, I also wanted to impress upon the public as well as the board what all areas our collection staff go through. There's so much of work to be done and so many unsafe places which they have to work and take care of it. So we've got standard operating procedures for all of these. I just wanted to share a couple of them with you. The first one is the collections crew accessing steep easements. Most of it is in the GCSD area. These are steep easements, and they have steep easements, and they have to do all the cleaning. So we do have SOPs which are visual, which is very clear. It says to park the truck as closed and set up traffic control, disconnect the jetter, slowly and carefully descend down the easement or hill, set up traffic control. So it runs into several pages, but I just thought I'll walk you through a couple of them, which says which step needs to be done, how you have to carefully descend from the easement or hill, what precautions have to be taken. I only brought the pictures part of it, but there's a lot of text also in the SOPs, in the standard operating procedures, which are not put on the screen. But just to give you an idea, these are the things our collections crews have to go through.
That looks like a clean out for the house up the hill. Why would we be doing something to a clean out for a house?
I think it was an
No,
easement between the houses.
Was it on the easement that you were working? Next picture
Next picture.
with the house on the hill, previous, last one. There it is. See the house on the hill in the lower,
Lower right.
yeah.
So so that clean out or that service access is for the house that's up on the hill, but the main line is actually about 6 feet. You can't see it because it's 6 feet below that clean out access point. In El Granado, we do assist if there's a property line clean out, and that would in fact be the property line in the easement area. So we will assist in the property line if there is in fact a clean out to restore flow.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. So besides the steep easements, we also set up the vector for wet well cleaning. We have the wet wells at the lift stations and the pump stations which Sam owns. So the vector truck is typically used for wet well cleaning. So this is also a huge process where we arrive at the work site, we position it, as close as possible, so that both the reel and the overhead boom can easily access the wet well. And then the other precautions need to be taken and how two people work on it and get the wet well clean. If you just pictures, we do have details part of it. But and then we do the cleanup site and depart, but the crew has to do all these things. We also do, the mechanics also do the alarm testing every week. They typically do test the transducers, they check out the wet well, and also check out the generators on a weekly basis. So we have standard operating procedures for each of these. For the isolation valves, where they need to take care, they turn off the pump they hand operated the switch and then exercise the corresponding isolation valve. They check the alarms to make sure. So these are all done periodically every week at all the lift stations. So these are done by our mechanics.
Kishan, how many lift stations in total in the whole system?
13 plus 3 plus 1, so 16, 17 lift stations.
17.
13 to MWSD, 3 to SPF One Bay, and 1 belonging to GCSD. And besides the steep easements, we also have areas where the manhole cleaning is required to be done besides the cliffside manholes, we call it, like the Niagara Island. So just giving you a picture of what all areas our collections crew go. They go to as steep as the easement part of it or in a cliffside part of it.
Yeah, it's not just all in a flat paved
It's not the
street.
flat and just to flushing.
There was a
Okay.
lift rescue there.
And for all of these, we have standard operating procedures which our crew follow.
The training is great.
All of our training.
That's how we keep our insurance down.
Yeah, so that's all I wanted to share. This
Thank
is
you.
our routine budget.
Yeah,
part of
it's,
it.
it's good
Something slightly different.
awareness.
Okay, so do we have a motion to adopt? Do we have discussion first?
No
On
public
the
comment.
board?
Happy to.
Seeing no public comment? Do we have a motion to adopt resolution 022026? For
Wait,
contract.
I got it.
All right, there was a first and a second, and they were both tied.
We appreciate the collections, and
Oh,
it's a bargain for the district.
They're frequently mentioned when I run into people.
let's give
Right,
a roll.
and I
call.
think it's good to notice too that it's more than just flushing a toilet.
I agree. Thank
That's
you for
why-
the presentation. It was very helpful.
Yeah, I think that should go on our website.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, good.
Any presentation done at the board meeting always will happen.
Let's have a roll call vote.
One of the slides showed a code.
Yeah.
You might want to check for that. Showed a login code, some kind of code to get into something.
Access panel, and it
Yeah.
says something at the time of, and then the slide went away. So I'm guessing it was an old one that we've reset, but
Just double
the
check that,
pin was shown on the,
because I looked at it and I thought,
It's a password from them.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
I remember it already, so. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're a specialist.
Uh,
Anyway, let's have a roll call vote.
Director Rowland,
yes,
Director Dye,
yes,
Director Boyd,
Yes.
Director Megan-Guest,
Yes.
Director Marsh,
Yes.
Chair Slater Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving right on to item B, adopt resolution 03-2026, adopting the Sewer Authority Midcoastside general budget for the year 26-27, and adopting the position control list. Keisha.
So we follow the same pattern, like the general budget is first discussed with the member agency managers. Then we bring it to the finance committee, and after the finance committee approves it, we bring it to the SAM board for authorizing the general manager to forward it to the member agencies. It is then discussed at the member agency level, and then after it's approved, brought back to SAM for adoption. That's the stage we are in right now. So I must thank the member agencies again for getting it approved and sending their resolutions to SAM so that we can bring it to the SAM board. And of course, our thanks goes to the finance committee and my finance team, consisting of George, Callie, and Peter.
Good.
So I would like to share and have a few slides to go over it.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we are in the general budget, we have the wages and benefits, which is about 3,245,000. I won't go with the number. The numbers are already in your packet. It's a total of 11.55. The budget is a small change, to the change of about 1.482 million from our previously adopted 25-26 budget. This is the division budget slide fiscal year for administration, treatment, and the infrastructure. So there is an increase in the infrastructure from 3.645 to 4.25. This is 70% increase. The last part of it is for the sewer force main in Montana. This is the expenses by category. You see that infrastructure is the largest portion, which is 37%. Then we have the wages and benefits, which is 28%. Other expenses is 24%, and legal and professional is 11%. Now, this budget is based on the flow for the previous year, which is calendar year 2025. So you see Half Moon Bay is 61.18%. GCSD is 18.21 and Montana is 20.6%. So like always, it's based on calendar year 2025 flow, as I indicated. So this is the operating budget as a key changes. I've gone through this in the past in one of our past meetings, but it's also in your packet, which gives you a split up as to what the increases are and due to the reasons for the increase has been indicated in the staff report as well. So there's an increase in 17% for Half Moon Bay, GCSD is about 11%, and Montana is about 13% in the overall budget. Now, just to give you a glance of the projects, doing a little different from what I routinely project the general budget, but it's important for the public as well as the board to know what all projects we've completed this fiscal year, which is 25-26. The primary sludge pumps, grid pumps, number 3 water pumps, and boilers. These are the main projects which we completed in this fiscal year. So this is the primary sludge pump. You see the before pump. So this pump is replaced by the pump which is shown in the extreme right. And there were 3 primary sludge pumps which we replaced this year. We have the grid pumps before and after, and we replaced 2 of them this year. We have boilers, so we have 2 boilers, boiler number 1 and boiler number 2. Both of them have been installed. For the boiler 2 got installed recently. We just got a permit from BAQMD recently. We have just got in the process of starting. Just to touch upon the reserve policy, which is also an important part of the budget. As per SAM policy, we are required to have 1.25 million plus 2 months of operating budget, which means in considering the operating budget of 25-26, we are required to have 1.25 plus 1.07, which works out about $2,321,211,000, which is required. Now, just to let you know where we are right now as of May 31st. Operating reserve required balance is 2,321,211, and we are over the reserve by about 465,398. The next slide gives you the total about what are the pending accounts receivable, what is the outstanding accounts payable, and considering all that, we do have reserve money left.
Kishan, at last finance committee meeting, we were getting very close to the limit. Is it just more assessment money came in?
Maybe there were less invoices too, because there was a big fat
The timing of invoices.
time from Montana, from the sewer force main in Montana.
Yeah.
It was a big check. So
That was a big check. Yeah.
that could be the reason.
No question. When you say operating budget, does that include infrastructure? That's what I thought. So,
The reserve is only for the operations.
Yeah.
Operating.
so you just, everything except infrastructure.
But the 1.25 million is emergency that could be infrastructure,
Correct.
not CIP, but
Yeah, so
infrastructure.
we would take it if there was an infrastructure, we don't have a separate reserve for infrastructure. So the risk we managed today at the plant. Just thought I'd show you a few slides. We're exposed to the coast, we are dependent on the grid, we rely on manual checks and reactive repairs. The left side is what is our plant, the right side is God forward. We don't want things to happen like this. So it's just an image which we picked up and put some AI into it and showed how what would happen. We have fires going there. Okay. The plant sits in the flood zone. We all know San Mateo County is one of the most flood vulnerable counties in California. Just to give you an idea that we are prone to floods. Storms, king tides, the El Nino, super El Nino is coming very close. We all know about it. We are getting up for it. And we have to deal with aging equipment. The aging equipment fails without warning. So reactive break fix has driven more than 2 million in unplanned CIP overages across 6 recent projects which we've completed. What we'd like to have in future, I don't know when it will come, but we'll have computer vision, robotic inspection, probably will have cameras and drones, scan tanks and galleries. We'll probably have a vision AI, which flags corrosion, foam, hot spots, all VI. We are hoping that will all happen very soon and we'll have a modern plant, but we're all gearing up towards that. At least first thing what we do is change the aging infrastructure and bring it up to date, and then we'll see how we can use all this modern software.
We don't have much aging infrastructure left, do we?
We're in the process of. We've done a lot of work.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a lot of very shiny parts out there.
Yeah, you'll come to know that in the.
But it's the parts
Right.
underground that give us the biggest grief.
Yeah,
The ones you don't see.
Okay. Questions?
Can you talk for a minute about the issues around the actual costs of the Montero Force Main and how we are going to deal with
Well,
it?
this is the budget item, so.
I know,
We
but
have,
it will impact our budget. This budget will be a budget only until we get that number, correct?
well, but we've got status on infrastructure budget as the next item. So my thought was we could get this budget passed and then we could go on to.
That's not on the
No, we
infrastructure
can still
budget.
talk about the solar force main in Montero because it's a part of the infrastructure budget.
Okay,
I'll just touch upon it.
Yeah.
Give you more information. The GMP, the gross maximum price, will be available for us hopefully by June 30th. But I'm also trying to get from a contractor an estimated GMP, like a range, like say 12 to 15.
So
or
from a
12
different
to-
contractor.
From the same contractor.
the
I'm
same
trying to get it earlier than that so that I can present it on the June 22nd meeting. The reason for it is the pipe cost, which is about almost $1 million, has been increasing over the past few months by about 20%. So if you're able, and plus it's got a long delivery time of about 90 days.
It's
Right.
related to oil.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is going
I'm planning to bring it to the board on June 22nd, subject to the contractor giving a range of GMP. Then I would request the SAM board to give authorization for me to go ahead and order the pipe.
Yeah, that
So
seems
that-
like a good
You
idea.
know, we can save money there, we can save the lead time, we can do all that. So I'm working towards that.
Excellent, well done.
But right now, we do not have the GMP, so I can't tell you how much it's going to cost.
GMP is what?
Gross maximum price.
Gross maximum price.
Yeah, sorry, guaranteed maximum.
Guaranteed maximum.
My question is really, we are going to pass a budget now.
Yes.
It will have to be amended early, sometime in the next few months. I just wanted to clarify that. It's going to have to be amended in order to come up with the funding for that project, which we don't know the amount yet, and it's why we can't put it into this budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. We would go for mid-year budget adjustments once we get the,
Or a 1 month from now or 2 months from now?
it will not be 1 month, 2 months from now, because once the board accepts the guaranteed
If we
maximum
do.
price,
Yeah,
then we go through a contract with the contractor. Then they're going to be submittals, and they're going to do all these things. So by the time construction starts and they invoice us a huge amount, it's not going to be until November, December, I think. So I think we can work around that. It's not going to be immediately in July or August that we would want a mid-year budget adjustment.
Yeah, the bills don't come till later.
Come in.
yeah, the
The
bills.
bills come
Yeah,
later.
it does.
But
can you lock in
yeah,
cost?
Yeah, well, that's what the GMP is. So once the price is given, the price will be locked.
so I just wanted
Unless we
to,
don't, I'm sorry, Barbara.
no, go ahead. I was just saying, I just think in terms of discussing this budget does not have enough funding in it for the year it covers to allow us to construct that project. There's not enough money in there for that project. And just to make the point that we don't know at this point how much we're going to have to add. So this budget is kind of almost a temporary budget until we have that number, because we know this budget will change.
Yeah, all budgets are kind of temporary.
Yeah, but it's going to have
They're rough
a
estimates.
big jump.
Pending unforeseen.
Well,
It's a blueprint.
it's a
Stuff
portion.
that can
Nancy,
happen
Nancy,
between
you
now
have a
and
comment?
Yeah.
anytime in the
I
future.
should remember. I just wanted to also sort of remind it, and I think it's really good just to make sure that the public that's watching us approve this budget knows that we understand that that's the case. We will have a amendment at some point in the year. But also the GMP, guaranteed maximum price you're going to get from McGuire and Hester by the end of the month. If the board decides not to take that, then we go out to bid There's some risk to that, obviously, because the longer we wait, the more the costs go up. But it's not, I wanted to make the point, it's not automatic. If for some reason the board decides not to do it, then it's going to be a longer process of going out to bid.
Yeah,
I just don't want McGuire and Hester to think they have it in the bag.
yeah.
We have to come in with a good GMP.
Yeah, they've been told several times that that's what's in the contract. It's not, whatever be the price, it's not what Sambo is going to award them that. And the contractor has also indicated to us that it typically takes about 10 to 12 months for construction of the sports mill. So it's important that the GMP is given to us at the earliest, and then the SAM board takes a decision. But I'm hopeful of bringing it to the board in the first meeting of July.
Who reviews the GMP?
We would review it, my engineers would review it, we have a team, and then we bring it to the board.
Do you have a third party or some type of peer review? Who when you say my engineers review?
Yeah, we have SRT consultants who are the engineers for this project. So they've been doing all the reviewing the plans, submittals, whatever needs to be done. This is that part of it.
Do you have some data to show their reviews have been correct as far as these estimates? But it just seems, and I know part of the problem is with projects take longer than we think and costs go up.
Don't we have a history with SRT, and they generally come in pretty right on their figuring?
Yeah, in the past, we've also, if we release the PO for say 150,000 on SRT, they've been able to complete the project within 150,000, saving us about 40,000 or much more. We've had that past experience. And they are our own engineers. We don't have an engineer in-house here, nor do we have an engineering team here. I mean, like engineering department in front of. We do have an engineer at SAM, but not an engineering department, so correction.
Right, we have an engineer, but
Yeah, if you don't have an engineering department, you can do all that.
Well, I just want to let the community know that it has a good review process. It's not just this.
it's
takes
not
time.
just slam dunk.
Yeah, right.
And it's not just us.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though we know what we're doing, but it's not just.
Of course,
Yep.
yes. I wanted to say one of the reasons we had to go to doing the mid-year adjustments were because Sam was trying to get the whole year's budget in the first budget that was approved, and there were many, many complaints from member agencies about us putting too much in the budget and overspending. And so this is the arrangement that has been arrived at to keep various interested parties and the budget going at the same time. Because if you added another $1 million or so, as I recall, and Scott, you can correct me, but people were going, well, we have to pay this in 12-month increments, and we're paying too much in the first 6 months for a project that's coming in the second 6 months.
I don't remember that being an issue, but I'm sure you're right.
Where we wind up with what's in front of us is we'll gather it when, closer to the time that we actually need to pay it. So it's a timeliness factor.
Yeah.
Putting it closer to the event.
But just tell the community that the overall numbers for next year's budget will be higher.
Well, we know, right,
That's a
we know with things
Significant.
underway. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna cost what it costs. We're going to keep it down, and we're also working not to collect a bunch of money and sit on it before we actually need it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to say, we know it's coming. That's the plan. And the timing is also the plan.
And the system will be far better. It will be very good to have a new.
Instead of a wholly leaky force main? I think so.
Yes.
We
We all
also,
think so.
we'll talk, I think, at the next meeting, after the next finance committee meeting, where we've had good discussions about making sure we add budget where more budget is needed. So the pendulum maybe will swing more back that way, where if we need more budget for something, we do a budget correction rather than trying to trade money around between projects. That's next meeting.
Yeah, there's a small typo in the budget document, Director Marsh caught it. And the sewer force main one time, we've set completion by June 2026. They will correct it before we post it on the website.
Good. Thank you.
June 2027.
Thank you, Nancy.
2026.
That suddenly sounded very soon.
Good. Do we have a motion to adopt resolution number 032026 for the Sewer Authority Midcoastside General Budget for fiscal year 26-27?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Director Ruddock,
Yes.
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Boyd,
Yes.
Director Nagangas,
Yes.
Director Marsh,
Yes.
Chair Slater Carter.
Yes. Moving right along to item C, status on the infrastructure project.
Yeah, this item came up on the agenda because staff wanted to give a complete detail about the infrastructure right from 2021 onward as to how much we've been spending, what's been happening every year, and what projects have been completed. Now, several, we first wanted to make sure that the public is aware of what's happening to the CIP budget over the past few years. And also some of the directors and some of the member agencies are not fully aware about what's going on. The finance committee has changed hands and people are not fully aware about what's going on. So we put together a short presentation so that everybody's aware about it, what's going on. It's full disclosure, full transparency, making it very clear. So we've added that to the staff report as well as in my presentation, which I will share with you folks. For some reason, my PowerPoint was not working, so I converted it to a PDF. This was from a different version, but hopefully less. Okay, so giving you an update on the infrastructure budget, wanted to drive home the point that almost every year the infrastructure expenses exceeded the amount collected from the member agencies. These numbers are displayed in audit reports presented at the finance committee meetings and board meetings. So it's not a surprise to anybody. It's always clearly informed to all the parties. The SAM's staff consistently apprises the finance committee of SAM's financial position. Now, SAM member agencies definitely provide a lot of review oversight for the expenditures on infrastructure projects during the budget approval every fiscal year. We have meetings with the member agency managers, we go through it in detail. And during every budget meeting, the SAM general manager checks in with member agency managers and the board for any direction. If any excess amount is remaining that needs to be returned or adjusted within the current budget. Even before we bring the budget to the finance committee, this is discussed with the member agency managers. Based on the direction given by the member agency managers, the GM processes either a refund or prepares an adjustment of the forthcoming budget. Just to reiterate, we had a meeting on November 13th with the finance committee meeting where SAM staff clearly presented that $3 million was collected from the member agencies for the financial year 24-25, and the total expenditure was about $3,388,625 out of $3 million which was collected, and only $500,000 was utilized on the Force Main and Montreal project. SAM staff at that point presented two options to the finance committee. One was to utilize cash flow from previous fiscal years to pay for continuing approved projects. SAM staff clearly mentioned that the project was going to take off only late 2026. Construction would start then, and funds would be required at that point of time. So rather than keeping that money in the bank for the sewer Force Main and Montero and asking the member agency managers for extra money to do other projects, it would be wise to continue with the cash flow. And the option two was either go for a mid-year budget increase to fund future costs of the Force Main project. The finance committee at that point selected option one and said, go ahead and manage your funds. If you have a cash flow issue, bring it back to us, and then we'll go for a mid-year budget adjustment. This is just to refresh the mind. Now, why do CIP projects go for overages? One important point to note is all project overages have been taken to the board for approval. Expenses beyond the GM's approval limit do not proceed without board approval. Now, the CIP project overages are because of supply chain management issues during and after COVID impact which impact the pricing, which impact the installation schedules. Lead times beyond 1 year required equipment to be ordered well ahead of the start of design or identification of the contractor. Scope of the projects changes because these are all aging infrastructure, old infrastructure, which we are replacing. So as you open it up, a lot of things come up, and those need to be replaced. As the design evolves, I would say something gets added. It's not just plug and play, remove this equipment and put that equipment. So, like I said, it's not like for like, but we would need to modify to use newer equipment to update the code requirements and to meet the current safety standards. The contractor's installation codes are received 1 year or more after the equipment was ordered, so those will cause overages in the budget. The construction often expose existing wear and tear of associated equipment elements which are not originally planned for replacement. Now, I'm going to share some of the major CIP projects as examples, which give you an idea about the overages, how the scope got changed, and also to tell you that we had a number of projects in 21-22. Some of the directors have a feeling that maybe we took a lot of projects during 21-22. We should have probably had few projects, but in reality, what has happened is what we budgeted in 21-22 took shape for ordering the project in 21-22, but we started getting equipment only in 22-23, and we started installing only in 23-24. It takes more than a year for some of the equipment to come, and the design process also takes time. But just to give you an idea about the CIP projects, the aeration basin diffuser project. This is a classic example of where we had aeration basin 3 and 4. But 3 was not working completely. 4 was just an empty tank. We were working on 1 and 2. The project, budgeted was about 416,000. The total expenditure was 690,755. Overages of about 275,000. But the equipment was ordered for 219,400 in 2021, August 21. Equipment was received only in August 22, after a year. And we started installing in 22. But as we started installing, we realized that it requires a new DO meter and probes because 3 was not functional. Then we had airflow control. Only when we get into the project, we realized that all these items are required. So airflow meter, we had to upgrade the conduits and wires. PLC programming need to be done. So scope of the work was modified after Sam's initial review of the original design. So this is just to dive home the point that the scope gets changed and the equipments get ordered, but by the time the installation takes place, it takes more than a year, so everything changes. So this is the aeration basin before. You see the empty tank on the right side picture, and you see all the pipes there. A lot of these pipes had to be replaced, and we had to put in some valves. But here you go. This is the working diffuser project. This working aeration basin.
I remember when that tank was empty. Does everyone else on the board remember that? Because it was such a relief to see it finally working.
Yeah, and it was really handy that we had that. In the early 2000s, somebody wanted to fill concrete into that basin and fill it up. Thank God, the board didn't allow, or the board took a decision not to do that. But one of the suggestions for that, but came in handy. We fitted everything, and now it's working very well. It's all bubbling. Bubbling means it's working.
Are you using both all the time now?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Then we have the bar screen drives and screens replacement in the headworks, where we started off with a budget of about 216,320. Total expenditure is about 740,000, so an overage of 524,000. So the equipment was ordered for 538,000 in May 22. This is equipment was received in June 23, almost a year after, and I started installing then and there. But the manufacturer had to provide new control panels. We had to upgrade the conduits and wires. New signals had to be provided, new PLCs and new programming. So these are all part of the project cost. I understand that when you take a project, we need to figure out overall project, but it takes time for the entire thing because this is an old plant. It's not like installing something new. If it was like a force main thing where we're replacing, it becomes easy. Just replace the pipes. But since there are so many other things involved, there's always a certain amount of increase. So this is a before and after. The left photo is a before, and the right one is after. Then you have the influent pumps and motors replacement. We have an overage of about 182,000, budget to about 468, expenditure is about 650,000. Equipment was ordered in February 22, installed in August 23. Although the equipment was received in 22, it took some time for them to do all the VFD cabinets, the control cabinets. Then we realized that there were a lot of conduits which needed to be relocated because they're all rotted and unsafe. So when we were replacing the pumps, we decided to replace all the conduits and put new wiring and then have new PLCs. So this is before and this is after. All these pumps are in running condition.
They sure look better.
Oh yeah. Then we have the primary clarifier upgrade project. So it was budgeted for 225,000, overage of 187,000. And we got the contractor to come and do a study first. They did an intense study of what all needs to be replaced, how it is functioning, and then they provided us a quote. The equipment was ordered in January 2024 and was installed in September 2024. At that point of time, we found that the clarifier motors had to be replaced, the control panel had to be replaced because it was obsolete unit. It was not talking to the new motors. Then the conduits and wires need to be changed. This is how it was looking. All these have been changed. It was all corroded and it was functioning, but it could fail anytime. So these are all being upgraded and the clarification has been upgraded. Then you have the secondary clarifier upgrade project where we started off with a budget of 220,000. The total expenditure of 789,000. So there's an overage of about 569. The equipment was ordered in 2024. We went out for a bid, but we got bid from a company called Rebid. So they came, assessed the situation, and then ordered for parts, received it in October 2024. I installed it. This existing equipment could not be replaced for like. The contractor provided customized rebuild strategy. That's why we went to rebid. It had to be rebuilt. If the complete clarifier had to be changed, then it would have been a whole lot more, it would have been millions. So we only identify certain parts, but those parts could not be changed like for like. They had to be customized to our requirement. And then the conduits had again needed to be replaced. Full system testing had to be done because it was just replacing the equipment, but not like to like. So this is the before situation and this is the after situation. And this is the last project which I'd like to talk about. This is the number 3 water pumps. It was budgeted for 250,000. The total expenditure was 530, so an overage of 279. Equipment was ordered in 2023 and equipment received in April 2024, more than a year. Installed in July 2025 because it took us some time to design it, put together a bid package, and then send it out to contractors. We got, I think, 3 bids and then we selected one of the contractors. But we also realized that we need to do a lot of soil testing and structural assessment of the foundation because the old pumps were on a foundation which was not compatible with the new pumps. The new pumps were weighing more, their grouting positions were different, so many things which were different. So we had to do a redesign part of it, design and build structurally upgraded pump bases because it had to cater to the seismic code of the present situation and not of the past. Codes get changed over a period of time. So all this had to be done with our design team. And then now we have the pumps. You have the before on the left side and you have the after on the right side, which is up and running and working very well. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share, and I'll just give you a preview of what's going on at the plant and major projects. Why overages have happened. Most of the major projects have been completed. other than of course the force main, and I don't hope that anything inside the plant will have any major projects like that or major overages, but definitely we learned from our past things, so we'll make sure that overages are not that high, and we'll keep sharpening our pencils.
I just say I thank you so much, Kishan, for that. I think we get a lot of information, but that helped explain the why. So, we've had a report that says we budgeted this much, we spent that much, but not the why. So that I think was very informative. And I really appreciate you going through that in the detail. I love the detail, so I love the report that you and George put together here. I do want to say, there's a certain amount of detail that comes to the board, and I understand this is one of those pendulum that swings where the board says it's too much paper, give me less. And then people like me come along and say, well, I want to see more. And so, every single request for information that myself or Chuck has sent to Kishan and to George, it's completely open and we get all the information. The tracking and the accounting is excellent. Every question we ask, the tracking is there. You can see on the report the project codes that track that. And as we've discussed, we had no idea actually until last fall, after a meeting I had with GCSD, that first of all, that there was so much non-CIP infrastructure with the date. It's completely natural, normal. Things go wrong, you have to fix them for the kind of incidental equipment repair and so on. But we have never had a budget line for that. And, some years it's been 400,000. This year, I think it's the electrical panels and so on. It's probably going to track to be $1 million. Did not, because it will now, have a budget line somewhere. And so some of the, what is going on with that budget and where is the money is going was from that not understanding that we had a lot going into the infrastructure budget that was not CIP. In fact, Kishan noted over the last 5 years, the CIP projects that are completed have exceeded budget. I think you said 2 million. Over those last 5 years, the incidental infrastructure work, and this is the new report that's in your quarterly report, is about 4 million. And so that has come out of the infrastructure budget, but it hasn't been in the line items. So next year, Kishan and George have also been just terrific in taking suggestions and working on how can we make this even more on a real-time basis, day-to-day basis, more apparent. So now we do have in this new budget, a budget line in the treatment budget called equipment, I think it's 921, that has money for all that incidental infrastructure. So starting next year, we'll have a really clean separation between the CIP expenditure, which is in the infrastructure budget, and the non-CIP capitalized expenditure, which is in the treatment budget. And a few more other changes, really just mostly in reporting. One we still have yet to discuss on whether we need budget adjustments versus transfers, but we haven't finished that discussion yet, so we'll finish it in a couple of weeks. But I just really do want to say, because the word transparency comes up, that the information is all there. And if we ask a specific question, we get that specific information. I've never had any sense that something is being kept from you when I ask for it. It's just how much do we want to see on a regular basis in real time. And as Kitchen said, new people show up on the finance committee and have new ideas, but it has been nothing but great to work with Kishan and George and Peter on the discussions and the openness and the debates about what we might do differently in future. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for this. I love this information.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Any other comments?
Public comment.
Sid, yeah?
Ishan, thank you so much. I'm sure that a lot of work went into putting in that report, but Nancy, I have to agree with her. The transparency for the public is so important, because all taxpayers see is money going out, and how are they going to come up to pay their sewer budget or their water budget or whatever, PG&E. And when you show line by line with images what the CIPs are, it makes a lot more sense to somebody who may not know how the sewer plant works and who don't like to geek out looking at line by line Excel spreadsheets. When you put those pie charts in to show, how much is going to salary, how much is going to major projects, it's really important. Thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot.
So I'm getting concerned. I would like to have what we do maybe reviewed by a special district, JPA sewer, that's getting pretty specific, budget analysts to see how other agencies have dealt with this and what the standard format is. I am, like everyone else, I love information. I think that is more interesting than good housekeeping. But it still seems to me that we could be. I can see, oh, well, we're going to guess what these projects are going to be, educated guess nonetheless, but now we're making guesses, and I don't like that kind of decision-making tree either. So I'd like to know what other JPAs, there's a whole lot of them, and Jeremy knows some, and just find out how they handle this. Because I don't want us to retread old ground with the kind of comments that were made many years past about the budget at SAM. And I think now that we've got that we put this new what's it called, the new accounting system, Tyler. There's so much it can do in terms of spitting out data that we couldn't do with QuickBooks, which we were on before.
My goodness.
Yeah. And but I am a big fan of having things with a continuity to it across districts. And so maybe we could find somebody who could benchmark this, talk to Nancy about GCSD and MWSD and that kind of thing, and we could take a serious in-depth look at this and bring it back to the finance committee and then to the board.
Yeah, we'll try to get some information from other agencies and see how they handle infrastructure projects and
how they handle things going over budget and
how they
Yeah.
we're still bound by our JPA in any case. And
well, it's absolutely, but it's far better to let somebody make the mistakes and then we pick up their product.
Sure do that.
Just a quick comment. I mean, I agree, and it's really helpful to see why the projects went over. I think that's really interesting, and I think maybe some of that information at the time would have been. I've mentioned this before, and maybe it's just not doable, but it seems as if some of these projects should have a contingency built into them. I've seen it in other contracts. It happens in some cases.
Don't we?
No,
20%.
They make their bid and they have their budget item for the cost to buy the pumps, and there's no money for the other stuff. And I would love to see you have more flexibility in your budget and more money, because for many of these, you're definitely, you're going to need more than that number. So just something to think about. Maybe it's not even possible, but it seems to me that would be a more effective way and would make your life easier.
Yeah,
just
I have something like contingencies.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a long time. So because it's not that I object to these projects. They're great and thorough and well done. Debbie?
Yeah, I think when you're acquiring equipment, I don't think it's typical to include a contingency. When you're doing projects, with multiple components, you usually have a contingency like the city, you know, anywhere between 10 and 20%. But if you're buying a piece of equipment,
But
that's
you're also
part of a
funding-
network.
It's some
I'm not saying
installation, so.
But I'm not saying you don't do it, but I've not seen a lot of contingencies on acquisition of equipment, of pipes or, you know,
But the
whatever.
installation costs more than the equipment in some cases, so.
Yeah, I'm
That's
just saying,
true of most
I've noted
projects
that
anymore.
But anyway,
equipment versus projects, you know.
Yeah.
we
I
want
don't
you
know
to,
what the practice is in wastewater treatment, but typically I've not seen contingencies on the purchase of equipment.
I think the way that the Cushion's been budgeting, the intent is that it's the whole project, equipment plus installation. But the retrofitting and the new stuff into old plant, as you noted,
Yes.
that's really where you need the contingency is, you know, if you have a line for equipment, we don't see that detail for the budgets, but the equipment and installation, and then all the ancillary things that it has to connect to, I
Yeah.
think it would be.
You certainly want to have a cost escalator, I think, especially now with things, you know, rapidly increasing in cost.
more
You
flexibility.
want to identify, you know, there are construction cost indexes where you can build in an escalator, you know, so that you can see what the ultimate cost might be, given a certain trend, right?
And I suppose this might be one of those pendulum changing, but I wouldn't want to petition in the position of budgeting so tight that he has to keep coming back asking for incremental more. I'd rather see a fat budget and come in under budget. I'd still press you to come in under budget, but I'd rather see there's really enough to do it without having to run back through bureaucracy to progress it. But it does mean you probably have to budget more fund, and it probably means your board, although I think in the last 4 or 5 years, the board hasn't said no to much, but the board has to say, okay, you know, it sounds like a lot, but if you showed us the kind of detail that you showed us tonight, I don't think there's any issue with it being a lot.
Yeah, plus we need to budget for engineering, we need to budget for construction management.
Right.
Yeah.
So many other things. So like, for example, in the force main project in sewer force main in Montana, we've been sent out for an RFP for construction management, so we need to give that price besides the guaranteed maximum price, that plus the engineering part of it, because they have to do the submittals and all that.
Right.
So all that put together is the total project cost. So it's not just the construction part of it, all that has to be taken into part of it.
And then there's now that we see the detail, I can see almost everything you do has an extra pot of money to hook it to the SCADA system.
Right.
Or, you know, it has a valve that isn't compatible, or, you know, I think we have to support you being fairly generous in your budgeting for these sorts of
Yeah,
projects.
so when we did the force main projects in the past, maybe in 2014, 15 or 15 onwards, the intent at SAM was to have a full-time construction manager, engineering construction contracts manager, engineering construction manager. But the engineering construction manager had to be pulled out, and once he became the GM, we didn't budget for it.
And replace that.
Yeah.
That's
that's
a
why-
lot for the GM to actually do all of that and do the GM job.
Correct, so.
So we might want to rethink that in next year's budget.
Well, we're
Yeah.
approving it.
With as many projects as you had,
Correct.
GM job is tough enough.
Scott?
You at least want a project manager.
Yeah.
So I really like the presentation and the collection of data, really good. One of the key factors that I don't see us covering, and probably maybe not this time, but I'd like to see it going forward, where when we're looking at a project and what it wound up costing us, I'd also like to know when we started trying to do it. And having a bit of a timeline about when did we become aware of it, when did we prioritize it, when did it come to the board the first time? Because delays have really cost us a lot, millions of dollars. And I think in terms of transparency and radical honesty, we'd be doing ourselves a favor to see some examples of those. So we could say, let's learn from that. Let's not do that again.
Right.
So maybe not this time, but going forward, I think that'd be a really nice, addition to the excellent work that you've done. Thank you very much for putting this together.
This is the first time that we've actually brought something to the board and explained completely in detail.
Oh,
So we'll definitely improve on it.
Public comment behind me?
Yes, I know when.
Jimmy.
Thank you.
Oh, and Sid has been.
So I also appreciated the presentation, Keishan, and I appreciated Scott's suggestion. I just remember when I was working with biologists notably some who've been on the Lancaster parcel, they talked about their best practices because, like every entity, they have mistakes, and they actually have spaces at their forum that they call the dumpster fires, where they bring projects that they made assessments of, like things just went wrong in a big way. And the idea is to create a safe space where there's no finger pointing, there's no recrimination. It's about figuring out how it went wrong and how to make it better. And I don't know an agency that couldn't benefit from that. It's really hard in this political environment, but I think it's worth considering. And I hope you can find space to do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, and I thought I'd add for the number of projects that Keishan has the board think about and make a decision on, you probably have 10 times that many that cross your desk. I see Tim nodding, that are automatically rejected because, or not automatically rejected, but rejected because of time, priority, costs. That's why we set the CIP for 5 years, and we have our priority projects. All of us are fully aware that projects 3 and 4 years and 5 years out are subject to change, if not postponement. And so what we see here is a very respectful use of the board's time so that we can get what staff deems to be the really critical issues done. And I think it's easy to overlook that. But so Sid.
I just wanted to add that after my comment that you mentioned a JPA contacting other JPAs, but I think Rob Bartoli would be able to, get you in touch with the ones that have good budget procedures and layouts. Vacation has his now. Thank you.
Thank you. So any more public comment looking around? Sid, I think you wanted to put your hand down. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, moving on then from this discussion, any more from the board? Okay, let's move on to item D, consider and obtain board feedback on a draft amendment and restatement of the existing easement agreement between SAM and the city of Half Moon Bay for assessor's parcel number 048024240 for the wastewater treatment plant site.
Jeremy
Jeremy.
will take over.
Sure, I can. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you for that lovely, rousing round of happy birthday. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think the two agreements, both D and E, I mean, they are independent agreements. They both are able to stand on their own, meaning as far as being contracts, they both have independent consideration. Each side has obligations. What we tried to do, and one of the drivers here, is one of the things we'll talk about in item F, in going through the process of trying to figure out how we can do a PPA. One of the things we learned was, okay, we have this agreement that's expired, and didn't expect that. And so since that time, we've thought about, okay, well, how could we fix it? The PPA requires it because there's no way to move forward with the PPA. And we've certainly learned that through the negotiations with JUA, and that'll be a separate discussion. But there's no way to move forward without getting this issue resolved. Now, maybe the board's okay with that. But the bottom line is we still need to address it because having Sam in this weird kind of limbo, and it's just really problematic on multiple fronts. It brings up issues with having people on site. It brings up issues with contracting. It brings up issues with grants. It's just something that needs to get resolved. And so one of the things that I consider my charter, and again, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, is I really try to represent the entity, and each of you agencies has different views, and you don't always agree on things, and that's healthy, right? That's part of a public process where you hash things out and through this process. But one of the things I have to do is try to look after the entity, which is Sam. And Sam's in a pickle here. And so we got to try to find a way to resolve this issue with this lapsed 1982 easement agreement that expired for whatever reason. The parties didn't do a permanent easement. And so we've got this weird situation we got to resolve. And so this was an effort based on the guidance that I understood from the board at the last, if it wasn't the last board meeting, maybe it was the one before. We've had quite a number of board meetings. But the idea was come up with something where it would not be specific consideration, where one agreement wasn't consideration for the other agreement. It wasn't a quid pro quo. And the idea was to come up with a framework where each could stand on its own. But if one doesn't take effect, then the other one doesn't take effect. And so that's what I did, or at least I tried to do. And it was a major drafting undertaking. And so that's where we are, and that's what we tried to do. Whether we succeeded or not, I don't know. It was premature to try to get anyone to try to approve this. We wanted to get direction from the board as to whether we were on the right track or not. But that's how we wound up where we are, and happy to get any feedback from the board.
Thank you. Comments from the board?
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Just, Jeremy, just on something you said, I appreciate that you're trying to represent the entity. And you made a distinction between you representing the entity and the member agency's views. But in my view, the SAM board as a board also represents the entity. And I know, and I don't think I'm the only one when I'm sitting in this chair. I'm doing it to represent the entity, not only my district. I have some other comments, but I think they're not questions. So if we do public comments, maybe first, it will come back to board comments.
Let's do questions first. Do we have any from the board? No. Comments, then let's go to comments. And do we have any questions from the audience?
Jeremy mentioned D and E sort of together and apart. You announced the items as item D. I do have comments relating to E. If they are relevant to D in a way that I don't understand, I'm glad to speak to them now. But I'm also happy to wait.
Well, since there are two different agreements, one is for the SAM site and one is for the Langstrom property. I thought we should keep those separate.
That works for me. Thank you.
Okay, then I probably will go with my comment.
Go ahead.
Which is, to me, both D and same goes for E, they essentially reflect the proposition that the city of Half Moon Bay proposed at our May 8th meeting. I don't think that the way they are written, really in just one specific way, takes into account the full hour of discussion that the board had about that presentation. So, this is the third. I won't belabor this because this is the third meeting where I mentioned it, but for me, what hasn't changed is that we don't believe that any new consideration is due to Half Moon Bay for the easement for the plant. All due considerations received via the JPA credit. And although, as Director Roddick noted at the last meeting, the 1982 agreement has expired, but the underlying basis for that has not. The additional ask then, in my view, amounts to sort of double dipping. That said, we had a great discussion at the last meeting about how both of these proposals appear to have merit. There's a lot of interest in the Langstrom proposal. I just think, Jeremy, they're not really interdependent, since the first one, on its last paragraph, the SAM easement states in its last paragraph that these agreements are interrelated and that they must both pass or neither passes. So they are still linked in the way that it's much of our discussion at the last meeting, we asked them not to be linked. I thought Director Boyd made a very instructive compromise proposal to consider them both at the same time, side by side, but not linked. They're both, I think we agreed, both good ideas and have merit and would likely get approval. They just, the linkage, I think, sets a bad precedent. It doesn't reflect past practice where Montera built the Walker tank and gave it to Sam for no additional consideration. GCSD bought the Burnham Strip property for the wet water storage tanks and give an encroachment permit to Sam for no additional consideration. And it sets a precedent then, for example, if Sam decides to add the third wastewater treatment tank on Burnham Strip, the GCSD says, well, we'll consider that, but for an extra consideration, like put in a big odor control system in the Portola pump station. So I just think it was such a simple matter to do something as simple as extending an agreement at no cost and probably 2 hours work for the benefit of Sam, and then just as a standalone, and then put this other proposal, which also I think has the potential to create some benefit for Sam. It's just not related necessarily to the easement. So I just think on a matter of principle, we should keep them separate. If they were separated, which means just taking out the last paragraph in the SAM agreement and modifying paragraph 1 and taking out the last paragraph in the master agreement, I would vote yes for both of them. As long as they're related, I feel very strongly about this principle. I would not vote for either. As far as the PPA, Kishan, I know that you and Jeremy have, bless you, slogged through the work of this PPA and all of the issues of it over the last 8 months, I think. And it's fairly fraught. It's not a lot of savings. And I think we said it the last 2 meetings, we would walk from those savings rather than compromise this principle. I have a further concern about it. I know we're not discussing it, but I'll just leave this with you because I know you're still negotiating it. When I walked out the last time, because it was still light, I noticed the trees. So about a third of the panels are slated for the carport that the vendor would like to build over the parking lot along the fence, which has immediately next to it on the southern exposure 30 to more foot trees, which for most of the day would totally shade those panels. So whatever theoretical power generation they're projecting for that, I have solar panels. If a tree comes out or a tree goes in, it makes a big difference. We just won't be getting, I think, the projected power from those. And I worry now that could wipe out whatever small savings that we have, because those are not our trees, right? And so I still have a concern about the PPA in general. So if this were to knock the PPA off its tracks, I don't think that's a big loss.
And there's a risk to the solar panels from the falling of the trees and branches. Too.
That's all for me.
Looking for other comments?
Well, I'm prepared to support both of them. I don't need them linked.
I'd just say I'm sticking with they both sound like beneficial things. And if we happen to do them at the same time, I'm willing to blink and vote yes on both. I have some questions on the other one, just matters of technical matters, but I'll say, Jeremy, I can tell you put some artwork into this, and I can see you put in some time and effort on this, and I think the last paragraph had to be the hardest bit, and I get that.
Paragraph 7.
Yeah.
The interrelated paragraph.
Thank you. Yeah.
That said, it requires joint timing, but it doesn't actually describe transfer of value, which I think was a very important legal concern that you raised last time. And I think this does an artful dance around that.
It's less complicated.
Yeah, and I appreciate, Jeremy, that you worked on that. I think it would be very difficult. I mean, the one question I remember the most from last meeting was, well, how would that work? And I mean, I think this paragraph is that kind of captures, oh, look, that's going to take a little bit of artful work, but I think we can do the artful thing if we all agree that going forward together on both is good.
Debbie?
I'll just point out that our city attorney only got the drafts like last night. So I think she submitted a few edits, but there's likely to be more because she's still reviewing it. So
Yeah.
what you're seeing now may
Just a
change.
draft.
It's fresh.
Paul?
Yeah, I think Debbie said, we just received it.
Well, number one, I agree with everyone. We just received it. Haven't had time to have our attorneys get back to us on this. I can't approve the item D with that 7th paragraph. I think these are two separate parcels of land, two separate ownerships. I don't think we want to confuse people's thoughts on what this is. And I don't know why the easement for the land under the plants is void if the Lancer parcel is not approved. I feel like I'm being hamstrung. I am also not pleased to see, where did that go? Paragraph 2, item A, I think the PPA needs to be a whole separate agreement. I don't think
It is.
It's
It is
right
separate.
in here with the SAM site easement, which I think is wrong. We should call it land use or something. But it has to do with another piece of business that is not about the easement. And one of the problems we had with the JPA was the same kind of inclusiveness of things that and mixing things and issues up. We need to have a separate agreement for each piece so that they are referred to. And a small detail is, notwithstanding, this is paragraph C, notwithstanding the paragraph 3 of the grant easement, what grant easement? Put a date there, please. One of the things I learned from this problems between Half Moon Bay and Salmon, Montero, and Grenada was we have to be very, very specific about what we are referring to, because there's other easements, and this is number 3. So I think it's important in this day and age to add those few extra digits to an electronic document to make sure things are very clear and not easily confused. And I see this particular one that we're discussing right now has both issues, all 3 issues actually. The need for a separate contract, the need for it not to include the land screw with the site agreement, and we need to be very specific about dates. I was glad to see that you talked about definitions and referred back, and that should also have a date, capitalized items used but not defined in the Second Amendment, and shall have the meanings ascribed to them in the grant easement. Which grant easement?
The 1980s, the 1992.
Yeah, just put a little date in there. But one of the questions I have is, what happens with no SAM site agreement? Is there no construction on anything? No repairs, outside repair or service agents coming in? What kind of problems are we getting ourselves into in this talk?
You want me to respond?
Please.
Yeah, so the parade of horribles, I mean, I think we can come up with a few things, but it's never good to be in a situation where you're basically, I would say our current status is a holdover contract, basically, where the parties have continued to perform as if the contract never lapsed, which happens sometimes. But the legal status of that is difficult to communicate to other third parties outside of this relationship here. I think we all know realistically that the city owns the land. The city needs SAM to treat their wastewater. And so there's a relationship just based on the reality of where do the sewer pipes go that's not going to change. As to, what could happen, I mean, Kitchen's already experienced some things. Like, for example, in a grant application, right, that needed to know they needed, as part of the application, they needed the permission of the owner of the property. Right. So if that was one of the reasons I included some of the things I did in the amendment was to try to clarify that in advance so that we can get around issues like that in the future. It would be much simpler if SAM just owned the land, but they don't. And so every time you have a situation where, SAM needs to grant access, I mean, in the current agreement right now, it says that every time we give a license to somebody, the city's supposed to approve it. And so that, we need to address that. I mean, in reality, we're not doing that. Every time someone comes on the property, we're not issuing the city's not issuing a license agreement, but that's what it says. Of course, that agreement's lapsed. And so we're in a legal, how do I describe it? It's a great area of legal uncertainty, as often happens. You mentioned before, Chair Senator Carter, with the JPA agreement. I mean, it's similar. There's lots of ambiguity in the JPA agreement too, but this is an issue that can be fixed. Whether it's done, if we delink the two agreements, that's fine as long as everybody's okay with that. I can take out the last paragraphs there. The idea was just to make it as a package, and Director Boyd, I think, hit the nail on the head. What I was trying to do was get around the consideration problem. It seemed like the main concern last time was that there would be Granada objected that the consideration for the consideration from the other member agencies was already made. And from the city as well, as part of the overall transaction in 1982. And that may be, I think it's not terribly clear one way or another on that point. But so the intent was, with the last paragraph in each, was to get around that issue and still give everybody, and the problem is if you do the two, if there's no linkage, the parties are going to have to trust each other, right? So that if one agreement is approved, the other one will be approved, and that's what I was trying to get past. And you had one other question, Director Slater Carter, I believe, about the definitions. We can certainly address that. I'm just trying to think of what it was that you had said.
They're not necessarily definitions. They're specifications to documents that are referred to but not specified.
I know what it was, the PPA. So one of the things they asked us for, and this was it's been a difficult negotiation on the PPA. And they've delayed. Part of the reason this took so long is we were waiting. We only got their comments on the afternoon. Actually got a red line from them on the afternoon of June 4th. What I tried to do was to basically pre-approve that the city would allow, through this agreement, the city would because they need that assurance that if SAM goes away, they're not going to get kicked out. So they need financial assurances. They wanted a separate grant of easement, which we can't give them. We meaning SAM, we can't get a grant of easement because we don't own the property. And so the only one that can is the city. And so I was trying to pre-address that problem, which the vendor, JUA and Coldwell, indicated would be acceptable to them. So that's what I was trying to do there.
Jeremy, just a follow-up for you. When I read that paragraph, I thought you were probably trying to satisfy this specific PPA. And I appreciate actually that in paragraphs 2B and 2C, you addressed some of those restrictions in the original grant of easement, the original easement agreement that did require SAM to go back and forth with the city more on things like who's getting licenses and other construction on the site. So I appreciate B and C in particular. On A, I just wonder if it could be something more general that I think that's probably what they asked for, the JUA and Coldwell, so that they can be assured they can do the PPA. But there might be other construction projects like the electrical building or other new construction that comes along. Right. So you might make that paragraph A just more general. For example, a PPA or other types of construction, so it's not just so specific to the PPA.
Great suggestion. Happy to do that. I mean, that I struggle with that because, on the one hand, we have an existing agreement, but two, I wanted to make sure that whatever we wind up doing, it conforms to the way that Sam is actually doing business, and that we don't do anything to tie their hands. And so that's a great suggestion, Director Marsh.
Good. So you've got our feedback on this one. Do any more comments from the public? From the board? Okay. So we'll have this on a future agenda. And then what about for feedback on item E? This is the board feedback on the draft easement agreement to restore an area along the Kehoe watercourse, known as the Lanster property, in order to provide mitigation for stormwater flows. Also to provide a utility easement to allow the city to relocate a sewer line from west of Pillar Cedos Avenue to southeast of the end of Pillar Cedos, connecting at Bev Cunha Road. Informational only, draft agreement to be provided prior to board meeting.
Public comment.
Public comment first? Yeah.
Whenever you say.
Let's go because it will inform our decision.
I'll try. So, let me be seen. Nice to see you all tonight again. I provided a few pages and I'm going to refer to them. I gave a copy to Keishan, and I'm sorry for the public if you can't see it. I don't know if there's a way that you can help them view it, but so there were several questions. At a very high level, I appreciate that this association of easements includes one for a drainage easement. And at the risk of confessing my ignorance, which I may as well do now, I don't know that a drainage easement is the right name for the easement that you want here. Our problem is that we have too much water coming too fast already. What we need is detention and retention of water. And if a drainage easement is just a convenient handle to do that, that's fine. If it's not, then we need to have clarity on if we're going to facilitate additional drainage. We need to understand where that water is going to go and what are the ramifications for the environmentally sensitive habitat uphill and to the side and downstream from that area. What is the impact on erosion in those areas and sedimentation in those areas? So that's my first question. The second question is, I noticed that it's for 4.5 of the 9.8 acre parcel. In 2015, the neighborhood approached Sam, and many of you were on the board at that time, about using the Lanster parcel for the purposes of preventing erosion and other problems that are being facilitated by the Kehoe water courses, drainage from uphill. And at that time, the members of the board outside of the city of Half Moon Bay were very open and generous in their offer to use that. They understood that this parcel had environmentally sensitive habitat that precluded other uses, and that it would be an excellent solution for the problems that face both Sam and the neighborhood. Because we live next to each other, our problems are truly shared. The flood that impacts you will impact us. The erosion that impacts you will impact us. The sedimentation that impacts you, the invasive exotics that impact you, all impact us. So it makes sense for us to use all of the tools at our disposal. At that time, it was a very different management of the city of Half Moon Bay. And the members at the time were very reluctant to go forward with this idea. I think they were a bit frustrated by the results of a lawsuit that I will confess to having been on the opposite side of. But nevertheless, the point here is to wonder why the 9.8 acres, which, by the way, would provide a nice nexus for any subsurface drainage that might need to go to the city parcel on the southeast side of the sand plant driveway, which is precluded, or at least not made possible under this existing easement. So I'd encourage you to consider a proposal to offer all 9.8 acres of this parcel for this purpose. So the third point is that I am somewhat concerned about the meets and bounds description of the parcel as described on this easement. And that's why I gave you several items here. The original division of this parcel was in a 1908 map grant describing meets and bounds in chains of links from the Vasquez parcel granted to De Benedetti. And there were a couple of other grants in the process that got to that point. But eventually, the neighborhood to your north, what would that be, northwest? The Kehoe Estates neighborhood is on a picture that looks like this. There's two sides on your map. And you will see on the reverse side of that, there's a blow up of the southeast corner that describes the meets and bounds of the area adjacent to Sand Flag that is the subject of the proposed drainage easement curve that goes around Pillarcitos Avenue. And by the way, I should say my home. My home is the home at the edge of Pillarcitos Avenue. And those meets and bounds descriptions differ. So I'm not accusing anyone of any impropriety or that somebody's trying to take land. I don't think you would ever do that. I trust you know I would never do that. But the discrepancy needs to be resolved. And I provided the additional documents so that I could provide some kind of breadcrumbs from what I've seen in response to seeing this. In 2005, the city of Half Moon Bay was considering putting cement along the one bank of the Kehoe watercourse, at least up to Pillarcitos Avenue. Apparently, any development that was going to take place south of Pillarcitos Avenue was not particularly important to be concerned about. So the protection was limited to that area. And in concern to some of the neighbors questioning whether the property was already encroaching beyond the drainage easement, the city was asked to produce a location of where the easement ended. That was the map that looks like this, that's dated 2005 from Coastside Land Survey. And it laid out some numbers that look pretty close to the De Benedetti numbers and shows where they put in some iron pipes, they set some things. Oddly, this map was never filed with the county. So I don't know what to make of that. And I'll just preempt any question. You may note that Director Nagengast's name appears on the right-hand side around the middle. Paul, there's no impropriety here. I mean, no disrespect at all with respect to that. This was work that you were doing when you were the Public Works Director at the behest of a very different city council. So I want to be clear to you and your colleagues and the public that I hold Paul in the very highest esteem. So there were some pipes set at that time in 2005. Then in 2008, the SAM acquired a survey of the Lancer parcel. That's the one on the backside of the proposed drainage easement. It looks like this. And it notes both sets of meets and bounds descriptions. It's a rather complex document, but if you chew on it long enough, you can work through the Rosetta Stone. What's really interesting about this document, and I've highlighted it in yellow, is that it has presented what it believes is the original basis for bearing in the 1908 De Benedetti map, which is A, really cool, and B, they put in some magnetic nails so that it could be found, and C, whatever the propriety or impropriety of the other maps, any survey that starts at that point could be compared to any other survey that starts at the same point. And we could figure out where the boundary actually is, right? So I think that covered all of them. But when you look at this map, you'll see that it's different. And my goal here is not to suggest, again, any impropriety, is to say that we need to find the right line. And it's material in many different respects. So that was three things, right? The drainage, the definition of the easement, the size of the land that's involved, the questions of meets and bounds. The fourth item was with respect to the second easement that was being granted, which continues along what would have been an extension of Pilocitos Avenue towards the pipeline that runs down Vedcunia Country Road. And I have a couple of questions about that. They're not criticisms. I don't know if they matter, but I think it warrants discussion. The first is that the Kehoe watercourse is quite deep and eroding in that area. So it could be that this work and the context could contribute to the stabilization of that. But I don't know what the elevation and slope of the septic line that you're going to run towards that pipeline is. The very last thing you want to do is put it in the way of the hydraulic force of water coming down the Kehoe watercourse. And remember, it's not just the fluid of the water. There's a bed and bank load. When you move water, you're moving the underground structures as well as the water itself. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm saying, please think it through and be sure that what you're proposing is stable. The second thing is, as part of the settlement agreement in the aforementioned lawsuit, the city abandoned an easement in that area for a road. As you know, that area is habitat. If it's underground and it's restored properly, I don't think it would have any bad impact. In fact, as part of a project to improve the habitat, the easement, the establishment of a safe pipeline might be just great. But I want to be sure you're conscious of it and you're going in with your eyes wide open. And you understand that creates an obligation, right? And although it's not noted on the map, as I said, it is habitat for endangered species. It's probably got some wetlands that are degraded, but still wetlands nonetheless. It's got riparian habitat. So there's going to be some regulatory stuff. I'm guessing if you want to do a restoration, those agencies and the Coastal Commission will dance to the party. They'll be very happy to do it. And we all know that Sam needs a line. The line that's being vacated, I'm not too sure where that was. Maybe that was in the maps and I just didn't see it. I know that back in the early 60s, there was a septic line that came down, I believe, from Seahaven, as well as the parts of Kehoe Estates and Elmar Beach and Casa del Mar that went out onto the beach property and then turned toward the sand plant. It was a really terrible idea. And so, vacating it could be a really good idea, but I apologize for the duration. I'll get out of your hair. I just wanted to get that stuff on the table. Thank you for your forbearance.
I just have a quick clarifying question. Where exactly is this wooden stick? Is it?
I believe it is on.
It's shown here. It's shown here. It's shown here.
Yeah, it's close. It's close to the Magri. If you're familiar, there's a corner lot on at the service road, old Highway 1. There's a 1 acre parcel that's called the Magri parcel.
That upper corner?
Yeah, on the opposite side from Landstar, across the Vedcunia Country Road. And I believe that that basis for bearing is on their parcel.
It's right here.
So I think it's here.
Oh, I
see. That's an insight that points to where it is.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy will know. And again, I confess I'm no land use attorney, right? And I'm not trying to grandstand here. I just want to lay out the concerns so you know what I'm thinking and we can avoid trouble. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all your thorough work on this.
You're welcome.
Is this any of that?
Pardon?
Greg has his hand up.
Greg has his hand up. Okay, Greg?
If I'm allowed to make a public comment,
Sure.
I try to follow Sam closely. I'm afraid I didn't catch up to the materials before the meeting. I don't think they were available 74 hours in advance, as you did mention.
Right.
But I just want to mention.
Discussion only.
Right. I just want to raise a question here. It relates to other agenda items. Is Sam really ready to do this? the benefits of this project, given that interest rates, and I mean, given that we're going to get hopefully a new administration in 3 years, and the benefits of better solar technology down the road, wouldn't we be better off studying all this stuff that Jimmy and others are raising and getting it all sorted out and coming back to the power purchase agreement in a future date? Or am I missing something? This seems incredibly complicated and hard to unravel. That's just my question.
Thank you.
That's just the next item.
Right.
Yeah.
That's item,
Yeah.
Sid.
Okay. See.
Also have a really quick question, but it might not be this item. I guess nobody at SAM thought of maybe asking Half Moon Bay to sell the underlying parcel that they're, the sewer plant sitting on, that might cause less problems down the road as far as ownership. And then as far as solar goes, I think I believe the thought right now is that the power is going to go up because of a lot of power plants are run by oil, and if oil gets more and more expensive, electricity rates will go up because of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, back to the board. Questions, comments?
Just two quick things to hand off to Jeremy, knowing we don't have a lot of time left. Jeremy, on this land share easement agreement down at the bottom of the first page under now therefore, for good and valuable consideration, I wondered if you were referencing, without being specific there, the consideration coming from Half Moon Bay being granting the SAM easement. But as I read through the agreement, I thought it could just as easily be the benefits to SAM for the flood control and improving that water course, right? Okay, so I just wanted to get that separation. As I already noted, I would
That was the
revise
intent.
paragraph 1 and eliminate paragraph 15. My only real question just to think about, Jeremy, was on indemnification. And this is more of I don't have enough legalese to see if this is covered in that language, but I wonder if SAM would be indemnified for any claims related to any modifications they may make to that water course, and any claims that come for sequela or damage that people perceive as a result of the modifications Half Moon Bay does. It's just not clear to me that language includes modifications the city may make to the parcel that may result in claims. So you don't have to
I think
answer
it would.
now.
Oh, okay. Well, too late. I think it's pretty broad, but we can sharpen our pencil even further. But yeah, the idea was to have, and the city had asked for the language, the last paragraph, and which makes sense if we're grossly negligent or engage in willful misconduct. That's pretty standard. But yeah, it's pretty broad indemnification language.
Okay.
Scott.
Why don't we start, Debbie?
Debbie.
Yeah, so I totally agree about the scope of the easement for the restoration work. I was not in favor of the proposed easement, which is just basically along the Kehoe watercourse.
That was actually what I wanted to ask about, so thank you.
So I'm against it. I think I like the idea of an easement over the entire parcel because I think it's going to have to be a winding channel, because the idea was to collect the water that comes from the east side of the highway, get it away from the houses, have it meander, and basically feed ultimately the Caltrans mitigation site, allow us to do restoration there, improve flood storage from Florecitos Creek. So I'd like us to go back and have that discussion again with our staff, because I don't think the proposed easement is sufficient to do what I think needs to be done. So.
Well, then I'll jump in, and it's like the way it's sketched is like it's on a collision course with the plant. And like, where's the meander? Where's the feeding it toward the south? And so I'm super glad to hear what you're saying, because I mean, I think I was intrigued and really interested in the 4.5 proposed last time, and really open to the whole. We'll figure out exactly which 4.5 once we have kind of a plan. Consulting with the experts and all. I think that's perfectly sensible. So, get it on the books with the right to do it.
Yeah.
But not try to do meets and bounds until, I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't talked biologists, hydrologists, all sorts of people that we'd want to.
That would be in your preliminary engineering design, right?
Yeah.
So that's a ways off. And we still have to attract funders and refine the concepts and,
Right.
so I'd like to bring that conversation back to staff.
Sounds like
There's a
going for the wider property would just give you much more flexibility in that plan.
What are,
You know, and you might want a channel that actually not just meanders, but that can migrate back and forth, right?
Can puddle too.
Yeah, so
Pond or
the
however.
area, it's gonna have its own little floodplain, right? So,
Right.
you know, you want to account for that. So that's why I think I agree with Jimmy that initially having an easement over the entire property until we can refine the scope. Because we want to make sure that it can function properly to, you know, eliminate, you know, flood risks to the plant and to the houses.
right,
I
right.
agree, that shouldn't constrain you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it has a chance to dwell on the surface in this floodplains, it can actually seep and store quite a lot
Right.
more water.
Yeah.
Which means a lot less scouring, no matter what happens
Yeah.
downstream. So I really like the idea. I think I mean, in terms of language, we probably want to find some way to scope it that ties it into the necessary planning and studies. You know, but I mean, like, yeah, I wouldn't try to limit it too much other than by principle to those things.
Yeah. And, you know, with the precipitation regimes that we're experiencing more frequently, you know, it's fewer but more
That's a fine-
intense
fine
storms, right? You know, we're like, you know, in 24 hours, you know, the water's like this deep in my backyard, you know, so you want a space for the water to go.
Yeah.
That's sufficient space for the water to go.
Well,
So I'll make that
Paul,
argument
do you
again.
have a comment?
No, I agree with Debbie. I think we've talked to our staff, but I think if the full length through
Yeah.
that full parcels in play, and then we can fine detail it. I'm just confirming with our staff that's on listening.
Yeah, city manager listening.
Yes.
Dale, our engineer's on vacation,
Yeah.
so we'd have to, you know, bring it back.
Somebody got a vacation? Barbara, do you have any comment?
Oops,
No, I think all this, I agree with pretty much all
Okay, we
discussion.
need to extend this meeting.
Oh.
We're a minute away and I'd like
I moved to extend the meeting by how many minutes do we need?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Second,
Okay.
Third.
Do it.
all in favor, raise your hand. Yes, good. Why don't we just sell it to Half Moon Bay? Having an easement, we can put things in the terms of the sale agreement, but having to come to Sam for stuff with an easement and all of this, why don't we just sell it to you? And you can give us a perpetual easement on your land here with all the appropriate insurances, everything, and have two separate agreements, two separate real estate actions. Let's keep it so simple.
I'm prepared to vote for both with the modifications discussed tonight.
I see two really good things we're trying to get, and I'd just as soon get them. And if a sale was something that people wanted to talk about later downstream. Downstream. Okay.
I'd like to read this.
Thank you.
You don't want to make it difficult to do a restoration, right?
No, well, I mean, I take your point, Catherine. I do. I just see us. I'm liking where we find ourselves in terms of being close to being able to.
One of the
accomplish
problems with an easement that is revocable. Once you have an agreement saying it is irrevocable, Sam could revoke this easement if a future board saw something they didn't like going on. Ownership gives you freedom from that.
Well, it's a nice thought, but I don't see it in the cards right now.
Well,
Yeah, it also costs money.
There might definitely be benefit to that, but I think the language about how these easements would run until certain triggering, possible triggering events.
Yeah.
It's if the language is strict enough about what can actually terminate it, then it's not really a revocable easement.
But I don't-
barring those triggering
The
events.
only revocable thing I see in here is one for the other.
No.
I will say this. So there would be mitigation associated with any restoration on the site, right? Because you're going to be, affecting habitat, right? So there's going to be mitigation ratios and all that stuff. Right now, it's very much conservation value. So, the sale wouldn't give you much anyway. I'm thinking would probably be a very rock bottom price because there's not much you can do with it other than restoration.
Well,
And
maybe
we
what
paid a rock bottom price to buy it in the first place.
maybe what we could do is trade the land strip property for the SAM site. So we own the site.
I don't think so.
I looked up the price.
I'd like to get rid of that
prices
diesel.
when this, you don't think
The
so?
diesel.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to find
Yeah,
a
the diesel.
simple
Yeah.
solution that leaves both agencies in full control of what they sit on.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Right. And I'd like to have this further considered. If Half Moon Bay doesn't want to do it, it won't happen.
Well,
But
we're
Why?
good.
if we trade, there's no cash.
The linkage that you perceive in these documents was not at the request of the city. Sorry, Jeremy. Yes, we were okay with keeping these things, separate.
That's great to hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
And, we talked today, we had our SAM prep meeting. It was like, we will just give SAM a perpetual easement over the SAM plant, without, much in the way of conditions. I think it was like, well, if there was no longer a wastewater treatment plant, that's a condition, right? That's separate. Or if people decided they didn't want to be part of it anymore. But other than those sort of blue sky or far-flung worst case conditions, we were happy to just give the easement. So
And then those
we were
conditions, they-
beyond the linkage.
Okay,
I
good
think-
to know.
I think we can recognize a proposal for
Appreciate it.
a proposal for a potential simplifying action is on the table now. We can have further discussion around it. It might be interesting to us. I think it's a really interesting idea. And we're like this close to getting somewhere under the current construct. And so, but I don't know that, I mean, if we execute on the easements, it doesn't preclude us deciding later to do some kind of transaction.
Yeah, doesn't preclude anything.
Right.
Right. Well, let's adjourn this meeting.
No.
Oops.
We need a minute.
We
The
need-
next item-
PPA.
the next item is important.
Oh,
We won't
okay.
go into detail about it, but we're not yet ready for the PPA. But at the same time, the public hearing is supposed to be open and we need to conduct it today, but we are requesting that we continue the public hearing for a regular adjourned meeting, possibly next Monday.
Okay.
If we are
So moved.
negotiating with the PPA.
Carter, wait,
So moved. We have a second?
wait, you open it. Wait. Gotta open it first. Open the public hearing, see if anyone wants to say anything.
Spell out the
And then we
motion,
can continue
Jeremy.
it.
Let's go.
Read the motion.
Chair, just say, okay, well, what the motion will be is to continue the public hearing until a regular adjourned meeting, which will be held on June 15th.
Okay, I move to
But first open it.
Wait.
Okay.
What?
That's a week.
I move to open the public hearing. First,
Well,
Yeah.
have a mission on the
Catherine,
table.
open
We
the
are-
public hearing.
We are, okay. At this agenda item, we have opened the public hearing.
And any testimony?
Pardon?
Any testimony?
Do we have testimony?
I've entered a letter in the public record. I don't need to belabor it with you tonight.
Thank you. You can belabor us on the 15th?
I don't know, but I'll belabor you individually if you wish. The letter is in your packet.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
so now the motion is,
I move
can
to,
you,
I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I think we had to open it.
No, we didn't have it.
No, close it. Keep it
Continue.
We
open.
need to have it open.
and then
So we
continue
can-
it.
I move to continue the
I
public
moved to
hearing
Yeah.
all day.
Public hearing to a regular adjourned meeting on June 15th.
Yes. Do we have a
Right.
second?
Bingo. Good job.
Do we have a roll call? We should have a roll call vote.
All right.
Director Arnold,
Yes.
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Boyd,
Yeah.
Director Megan, yes,
Yes.
Director Marsh,
Yes.
Chair Slater got it.
Yes,
Thank you.
But to confirm, you're thinking of a meeting next Monday?
the motion, the meeting is adjourned.
All the big, we'll see how the negotiation.
Well, I do think it's better
I
for
have
Sam to ask for